My people, what's good? 100 Years of Wealth, Kenneth here. Hope you guys are all doing well. Thanks for tapping back in. We're going to dive right back or right into it. But first, I want you guys to take a look over my shoulder. You see that 100 Years of Wealth shirt. If you did not see the other video that I made, you see that there's a video where I actually made that, pressed it myself. The ink came out great. So go take a look at that and just let me know what you guys think. Should I press up more? If you guys want to purchase it, let me know. I will go ahead and start making more so that you guys can grab those. But look, so the question, the topic of this video, Anthony Edwards, right? A great star, or a really good star, up and coming in the league, looking better and better every game. And a lot of the media is making the comparison of him and Michael Jordan. And the question really is that a good comparison? Is there merit in that argument, or in that comparison? Should they stop making that comparison? What's the point? Is it a media thing, or is it an authentic opinion by members in the media, right? So I think, to answer that question and not drag it out, I think it's a little bit of all that, right? I think the media naturally is going to do things that will drive more eyes towards the product, right? So that's the whole purpose of media. I've always looked at TV and I won't say always, but I've looked at TV and thought to myself that anything that you see on TV, there is a financial gain from it, or because you're paying to be in front of the masses, right? So unless it's like a public service announcement, it's usually there's going to be some sort of financial gain on the back end, even when it's like a political thing, right? Like the politics behind that advertisement feel like there's going to be some sort of net gain, right? So my point is that if you hear the media pushing a narrative over and over again, it's probably because they feel that narrative is going to lead towards more eyes on the product. Now, does that narrative, like that could be true, and then also on the other end, there could be merit to that argument, right, or to that comparison. I do see, similarities to a certain degree in Anthony Edwards and Michael Jordan, in the sense of they're both, Michael Jordan 6'6", which probably in real life was more like 6'5", and then 6'6" with shoes possibly. But he's listed at 6'6". Anthony Edwards, I think he's listed at 6'4", so he's a little shorter, but just as springy. I don't know the vertical comparison, but Michael Jordan had like a legendary vertical. But Anthony Davis seems to be just as athletic, very fast, and a great shot. He has great form. Does the fadeaway, does a lot of moves, and like multiple moves and then a step back. So I see where people are coming up with that comparison, and he's also been pretty dominant, right? I think the problem with that comparison is that Michael, like it when you compare Michael Jordan to someone that's super early in their career, that hasn't really had any accomplishments, that's just, balling out for sure, definitely balling out, but it's like, I think the problem for me is that you're comparing, someone to arguably the greatest player of all time. And that person, Michael Jordan, there's so much more to that name, right? When you compare him, you can't just compare him to someone because they have a fadeaway. If that's the case, say that. Say, hey, that guy has a fadeaway that looks similar to Michael Jordan. But when you start to compare the overall player, you're missing what really made that player who he was, right? So Michael Jordan, and as we see right now, Nikola Jokic, right? Everyone up until this series was just like rave reviews, loves him. He's the greatest thing. His numbers that he's putting up are historic, which they are. But I always was a little suspect because I feel like it's just, when you don't have speed on your side, all it takes is someone that's going to put a little bit more pressure on you that should be able to shut you down, right? If you don't have some sort of like athletic advantage, or part of your skill set and talent isn't speed, then someone's going to come along and shut you down. And I think that that's where Jokic is weak, you know? If you're a little faster, if you're playing uptight, hard defense, if you're a little longer, you know, which the Minnesota Timberwolves are, then you're going to have a problem. But my point is that you see it with Jokic. It's hard to get back to the finals, let alone win the championship again after winning, because people figure you out, right? That's where the difference is with Michael Jordan, right? People could not figure him out. He was a juggernaut that never got figured out. You know, they want to talk about like his years in Washington, but he was still balling out. Obviously, he was older, but he was still having games where he went for 40, went for 50 points. And, you know, playing at a high level, right? I think he averaged like maybe 22 or so. So he wasn't so far off from LeBron. LeBron's obviously playing at like I would say he's scoring a few more points. He's averaging a few more points. But, you know, physically he looks way more dominant because he's still like running through people and dunking and things like that, which he has physical advantages just naturally, right? So I think the skill level, you know, for Michael Jordan was still there. But my point is that when we're talking about those 6 championships, that's what you're talking about when you're talking about Michael Jordan. You're not just talking about someone that can hit a fadeaway, someone that's springy. You know what I mean? It's like there's other springy players that you can compare that person to. Michael Jordan is a representation of like dominance, success, skill set, all that, right? So my only problem with the comparison is that give the young man some time, right? Because just like they want to put Jokic in a certain position after one championship, or because, you know, he was the MVP or whatever. And the MVP for me is not always going to be representative of truly the best player. It's hard for me to believe that Giannis Antetokounmpo or that Jokic is better than Giannis Antetokounmpo. Different skill set, but my point is that I think that sometimes the MVP award could be a little political, and also depending on certain circumstances within the season. So I get that, but you know, my point, I guess, with the Jokic versus Giannis thing, I just feel like if you really look at them, faster, stronger, you know, more dynamic, I'm going to go with Giannis at pretty much any point throughout his career. I think that, and more unstoppable. But I think the Jokic is a reflection of softer defense and smaller players overall throughout the league, right? I think his success was more of a reflection of teams having gone small ball, and then you have this big, wide guy that knows how to like move around and really position well. Don't get me wrong, he's great. He's one of the greats, you know. He's dope. I really like his style, and I think he's super skilled. But I think at a different time in the league where you had more big men, as you see, he's getting shut down by Minnesota, and these dudes aren't even big men. They're just like long, lanky, young dudes that are just stifling and playing hard defense. I think a lot of teams just don't play hard defense. There's a lot of times I'm watching videos and I'm just like, dude, you could have blocked that. All you have to do is go for the second pump. You know, the second after he pump fakes you, go for the block. But you see so many times where teams just won't do that. They'll just kind of like show like a light defense. They don't want to get called for the foul, and then they'll move on. These dudes on Minnesota are playing hard defense every play, it seems. And then when you have a slow player like, I don't want to say slow because he's still like an athlete, but when speed's not his strength, Jokic, you see him have trouble like he did in these first 2 games. So we'll see what they do in game 3 if they make adjustments. But main point in this video was that, you know, there's a long way before you can really compare Anthony Edwards to Michael Jordan. You might be able to say, hey, his shot looks similar in certain ranges, which to me, if you're paying attention, there's a lot of things missing. He has a great fadeaway. He has a great shot. I think he has great form. He gets to the basket, excellent, great footwork, you know, but just not there yet to start making those comparisons, because what it is it's about doing those things at the highest level with the highest success result. and then doing those consistently. I think that with health and with health, I think he'll get there, right? Because he has a skill set. He's young, and it seems like he wants it. He seems like he has that dog in him, that attitude, So the next sir question, I guess, is should people stop making the comparison? No, of course not. Like it's natural to make a comparison. I just think that when people do it, sometimes it's a little ingenuous or disingenuous. It seems like they want to like bring Mike down real quick, like, oh, this guy's just like Mike, and it's like, look, my brother, like Michael Jordan's not just Michael Jordan because of the fadeaway, right? It's because of a whole slew of things and the execution at the highest level for the longest length of time with the best results, right? Like you can't, it's not just one or two things, right? That's the reason why, when we talk about like the GOAT and we think of LeBron James, and a lot of people will say LeBron James, scored the most points and he has the most points, and that's one of the attributes or one of the reasons why he's the GOAT. I totally get that, right? Like it definitely does put him in the, like that is a stat that is a strong stat that puts you in the category of some of the greatest people that played the NBA. I don't think points on their own are representative of you being the GOAT. It could be representative of your situation, right? Like it could be that you started earlier than a lot of people, played longer, had situations early on where you were the go-to player, things like that, but obviously the ability to put the ball in the hole is great by itself. So you can't take away from that. But the whole time, I would say up until, LeBron passed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Kareem was there and people weren't considering him the GOAT, maybe people from like a previous generation, because I think it was clear that Michael Jordan had passed him up mainly because, not because of the 6 rings, but because of the complete skill set, right? People will always like want to make the argument of like, well, Kareem, this, that. Kareem's great, but Kareem was not taking the ball up. Michael Jordan, like taking the ball up the court, running up the court. He wasn't like in a position where you could say he did everything, right? Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James. The reason why these guys are a fair comparison is because their skill set covered all angles. They have the shot, they have the dribbles, they have the jumper, the dunks. They basically did every aspect of the game. Take the ball up the court, play off the ball, every aspect of the game, and they did it at the highest level, right? So it's hard to include guys that may have like only played with their back to the basket, like Kareem. I don't want to say only, but that was his main thing. Get down in the post, catch something from Magic or from another player, do a little fadeaway, go for the hook, go for the dunk. He was dominant and he was sick and he was skilled. I don't want to like not say that enough, but at the same time, we understand the difference when you're bringing the ball up the court. You're running point guard. You are controlling the pace of the game. You are, setting up the final plays. You are, hitting long range 3-pointers. That's the reason why we compare certain players and we move certain players into that GOAT status. Even like players like Shaq that were super dominant, my man could not hit free throws. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's hard to be like, that guy's the GOAT when you can't hit free throws and you don't, have a dribbling skill set. There's certain things missing from your game, and a large portion of your success is your physical dominance. Not to say, like the main portion of your success, but, the fact that you are 7'2" and 330 pounds and you're muscular and fast, you know what I mean? Like, compared to someone like Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant that didn't really have like physical gifts compared to other NBA players, and it was more so a representation of skill set. So at the end of the day, it's all about what are we comparing? You know what I mean? I think that Anthony Edwards has a long way to go. He has a lot of giants to chop down. He has a lot of playoff series to win. A lot of those moments to capture before you can start making that comparison, because Michael Jordan isn't just a dunk, a fadeaway. whatever. He's a career. He's a finished story. So when you compare to that, do it justice by comparing someone like Kobe Bryant, comparing a LeBron James, which to me that's not even really a good comparison because they're just LeBron James is to me like no one says like you might think of Kyrie Irving and say super skilled player, one of the most skilled players that we've seen. During Kobe's time, they would say that super skilled player, one of the most skilled players that we've seen. For sure, Michael Jordan, right? LeBron, it's he's so athletic at this age. Look how he's playing at this age, right? It's never like you expect him to come down, back the player down, hit a turn fadeaway jump shot. I was watching videos of Kobe and it was just like regular for him. That was like a you know what I mean? Like the skill set was there, and I think people that aren't like truly paying attention to all the aspects of the debate or to basketball, it's really easy for them to be like LeBron this and that because that's what you've seen. And now it's been since 2016 Kobe's been out of the league. For one, he's not even here to argue his own story or have a camp that's like arguing his story, or arguing the side. He just has people that that want to chime in and stand up for what they know is right and what they know is true. You know what I mean? But it's like I get why people see LeBron as that, but they're not really actually understanding. It's like even in these last few years of LeBron's career, where he's like hovered around the 8th and 9th seed, they always want to like underline that with the well, he's older now, but then at the same time they want to give him credit for being older and being able to do certain things. So it's like accountability is missing, but then you want to credit him as the GOAT even while he's hovering in 10th seed. And luckily there was a playoff tournament or a play-in tournament in the last couple of years where he definitely wouldn't have been in the playoffs, right? I'm not here to hate on LeBron. It's just more so the arguments and the debates that you get from that side of the world is just getting ridiculous and lacks information. All right, but enough of that. Anthony Edwards, man, sick though. He's dope. I think he definitely is one of the current players that has that potential to be the next guy. And the next guy, to be the next guy, you don't have to have 6 rings, right? You could be the next guy, like LeBron was the next guy, right? Kobe was the next guy. You don't have to beat every accolade, right? Now, if you want to get into that conversation and be like, no, I'm the GOAT or I'm better for these reasons, then you're going to have people start to actually put a microscope on you and break down the differences, right? So I think that the best thing to do is just let the players be themselves. Let Anthony Edwards grow on his own. He's going to do his own thing. He seems to be locked in. But I mean, like from a media and fan perspective, let him grow on his own. Let him be who he is. Of course, compare and contrast, but I think do so more in the sense of like specific stuff as opposed to comparing a player who has a complex career, achievements, ups, downs, injuries, instead of comparing that finished product to someone that's up and coming just because they might have a similar jump shot. I think it just really doesn't do justice to the person that the finished product that you're making the comparison to, unless you really do a deep dive and come up with your analytics that make it make sense. So once again, make it make sense for me. But 100 years of wealth to you and yours. Like and subscribe, comment, tell me how you feel, and I hope you all are well. Have a good day, and peace.